I have very odd opinions, and one of my opinions is that anger is rather a waste of energy. I don't enjoy it. There are angry artists. There are artists that cry out against society. I like to make dance about what's good about dance and what's good about human beings. There's a sense, in a way, everything has its time, and 25 years is a long time. And I'm really hoping that I find new ways to work. So selfishly, that's all very exciting. It is quite hard doing the last tour because audiences are incredibly sweet, but they kind of queue up to tell me that they've been seeing my works in Strider, and you know how much they love it and how special it is and what are they going to do when I've stopped, and it's quite painful. It's wonderful, of course, but it's also quite painful. I'm ready to move on. I'm still absolutely committed to this group of dancers. Here we are. We have 2 weeks, just 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks, actually. Where are we now? This is Thursday. We have 1 more week after this. But already, I know there are things in the pipeline, there are irons in the fire, there are people asking me to do things, and I know the dancers will get work. I know they will. It's very important to me not to get down. It's very important to me to think, okay, you're doing what you love, you've been doing it for a long time, you've been allowed to do it for a long time, and there are people who seem to like what you do, so get on with it. Get on with it. Reach new people, work with new companies, find different ways of doing things, work abroad more, because I've really been touring in this country a lot, which I love. I've come to terms with it. I've come to terms with it. It was an agonizing decision. I made it 2 years ago. I had 2 years to get used to it. But it's gone beyond distress now. I'm not distressed. I've accepted it. I feel I've been very good, wonderful support by many, many people. Just absolutely recently realized that there will be a sense of liberation. There will be a sense. I was sitting at home this morning thinking, in a week's time, you could stay in here all day if you want. Or you can be a sunny day, or you can go to an exhibition, or you can do this, or you can do that. I'm fascinated by all the arts, always have been. So it's not like without a dance class to teach, I'm going to be miserable. I'm really hoping that I can keep working in dance, and I'm putting that out. Put it out there very loudly and see who responds. It was very encouraging being in New York because they love to make people feel important if they think they're important, and they tell me I'm important and I believe them, which was wonderful. But I do know that actually once we've got through it, if the Sadler's Wells programs go as well as the rest of this spring tour has gone, I will know that we have finished in a good way, and that will be a huge achievement. I will be so relieved by that, and so pleased that we managed to do it. And I will be thinking, now what? How exciting! I wonder what's going to happen. I selected, by and large, pieces which we haven't done at Sadler's Wells before. There is one piece which we have done there before, Merce. There's a new piece by Martin, because he's been a very important part of the company. There's a new piece by me that I made to Britain for the Snape Maltings. I mean, that was, when you say about happy times, that was also to dance in the Snape Maltings in Aldborough. It's wonderful. And we've been there 4 times. Really extraordinary building. I've included that in the program. I've brought back a duet for 2 men to Chopin, because I thought 2 men in the company now would do it really well. And I was amazed how right I was. They did it even better than I expected, so I'm really pleased to be showing that in London. I've made this Monteverdi piece, which I'm very proud of. I like it. I think I'm very pleased with it. We haven't shown that in London, so that's how the program will end. And I've got a short piece for students from here, because I made it for our last performances here. And, I like a sense of continuity. So I trained here. I graduated, well, I finished anyway in 1970. And now I'm working with the young people who are going to finish in 2020, and I've made a short piece for them, and it's gone really well. So that's part of the program too. So there's a lot of people dancing really well. That's what I've tried to say. Tried to choose. Okay, let's show a program where everybody's dancing wonderfully. Well, I keep saying it. I keep saying it. I say it when I talk to audiences, and I've said it in the program. I'm hugely grateful to them. Hugely grateful. There are things about my work which are not fashionable, but they are actually, in some strange way, very much needed. In a time when the world is becoming very cynical, I think dance can be beautiful. I think people dancing are beautiful, and I have absolutely no problem with attempting to make something that's beautiful, and audiences respond to that. So they very often come up to me and say how moved they are by my work, or how incredible. Someone in America came up to me, because that was the last time we were in America, and they said, your dancers are so wonderful and your work is so beautiful, and we don't have that anymore. And they should. The choreographers that have been hugely important to me have kept going, and their work has flowered in later, much older than 70. Although I mentioned Trisha Brown, who I really was very fond of and think her work is wonderful, she did stop at 70 because she was ill. It was an illness and she had to stop. And I was very, very upset. No playwright would stop when they were 70. No author would stop when they're 70. No painter would stop when they're 70, unless for some reason they have to. There's some illness or something. There isn't, outside of big institutions. Frederick Ashton could continue choreographing, although he was sort of given the, shown the door when he was about 70. Balanchine hadn't even made Jules when he was 70. He hadn't even made the last whole era of his work. So I look at these people and I think, okay, as long as people will lift their leg when I ask them to lift their leg, and as long as we do it with the music and whatever, I will be doing it. Unless I think, if I think at one point, oh no, this isn't as good as the work used to be, then I think I'll probably ask Martin, who's a good colleague, just let me know, will you, when it suddenly looks all rather hackneyed and uninventive. But I don't feel that at the moment. I feel that the last works, almost in defiance of the Arts Council, the last works I've made for this company have been some of my best. And I would love to take that energy on. I'm not certain. There's something very, at the moment what we're doing is all these videos in boxes and whatever, and we have to have them digitized, as they say, and then we're talking with places where they will actually store them as a collection, so that people will be able to say, I want to see this dance by Richard Alston, and they can. And that's an important thing. But of course it's not living. It's lively on a video, but still a video. But otherwise, I think I will just see where my work goes, where it's able to go. If nothing else, apart from the young people who I really have very warm feelings for, if they're studying my work, I'm thrilled. But actually, just as importantly, their teachers are fantastic. And the teachers, especially in this country, when dance has been elbowed out of the main curriculum, and it could easily just have disappeared, but no, it hasn't, because they work after school hours with people who volunteer. And that's what I see every year when I go to U-Dance, which is the big meeting for all of that, organised by what used to be Youth Dance England, but now it's Dance UK, One Dance UK. So I see young people still getting somewhere, starting out, doing things. And I see people dancing in spite of the fact that actually there's not so much to encourage them. I think I'm very, very, very lucky that I started out in a very optimistic era. In 1968, England was quite an optimistic country. Young people assumed they would get a job. Young people did not assume they would not get a job, which is widely true now. In those days, for instance, I went to art college, and everyone thought you went to art college, for all sorts of reasons, and then in some way you would get something, there would be some way of you working involved in what you were doing. And if you didn't, it didn't matter, because the whole thing of an art college was that it was an education, it widened your vision, it inspired you to live in a different way or whatever. So it was a very, London at that time was very optimistic, trendy, but full of possibilities. And so what I really love about dance is that people are still making dances, people are still starting out to make dances, in spite of the fact that that optimism in society has shriveled. I won't say it's died, but it's shriveled. And politicians are much less caring than they used to be. But people who need to dance do it. They get on and do it. And that, I think, is the wonderful and extraordinary power of art. Do what you believe in. I taught myself to choreograph. Nobody taught me. I taught myself by going to see lots of work and thinking about what it is I liked, and more beginning to understand what it is I liked and what I loved and what I needed to be in a dance. And I think nowadays there's so much information that you could pick up if you want to. You can just go online or go to YouTube. You can see so many things. Economically, everything is much, much harsher than it was, but that in a very important way, if you get up and you start jiggling your knees, there you are, you're dancing, and it's free. And so actually, yes, if you need a very expensive studio with gorgeous mirrors and a sound system in the corner or whatever, then you have to pay for it. But actually, we haven't touched upon something which has evolved in my lifetime that did not exist in any way when I started out, and that's street dance, hip-hop. That's been an amazing, talk about barriers breaking down. A lot of young people come here now from East London dance. They start with a lot of hip-hop, and then they want to find a different way of using that, and they come to a school like this. And dance is in everyone's life now in a way which it really wasn't in this country when I started. It really wasn't. And that's so now we're back to back to what I was saying when I went to New York and thought, good heavens, dance here is a normal profession. Everybody moves now. Young people all want to do. It's not just the movement. They want the outfits. They want the baggy clothes, the baseball caps, the whole thing. But it still means they're moving and they're dancing, and so they still get that kind of wonderful exhilaration, the adrenaline. And I've seen large groups of hip-hop groups, being drilled by sergeant majors, would not be ashamed of seeing the way that I've seen people working, and young people do it. They get on with it, and they're really excited to be part of it. So dance has changed in all sorts of ways, and it's part of our culture. It used to be rather an elitist part of our culture, or funny old men doing Morris dancing, but now it's everywhere. It's on television. It's in our lives, and that's nothing but wonderful. That's great.